Finally, a victory Monday. And I'm here to talk about what matters most coming out of the win over the Browns today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Today's episode of Locked On Bills is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. All you do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code Locked On. Happy Victory Monday to you. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Cleveland Browns 31-23 and improved to 7-3 on the season. Folks, the Bills won another one-score game. For whatever that narrative was worth, the Bills won a one-score game. All right, folks, it's good to be back on a Victory Monday. It's been too long, right, since we've had a chance to celebrate a win and kind of talk about what matters most coming out of it. And so that's what we're going to do here on the podcast. I'm going to do the things I liked, the things I didn't like. We'll recap our predictions and set the tone for the week here on the podcast. But before I really get into the weeds here, I think we should first acknowledge the effort that it took to get the Bills out of Western New York and into Detroit for this football game. So cool to hear the stories of how the community came together to get players literally dug out of their driveways and in position to get picked up or get, to the airport so they can go play in this football game. The videos and stories are so cool of neighbors and fans that showed up to help. And it really sounded like an entire organizational effort to get the Bills to Detroit. And so really cool to see that and hear about all that. And just another moment that makes you proud to be a Bills fan. It really does. And I know it feels normal to us for this type of thing to happen, but I don't want it to ever feel normal because it's really rare and it's special and it speaks to the community and what people are willing to do to help their neighbors. And you always know that when it comes to Western New York, and makes me very proud to be a Bills fan and be part of Bills Mafia. So shout out to everyone who played a hand in getting the Bills to Detroit for this football game. All right, let's talk about the things that I liked. First of all, a very general statement that I'll make before we kind of get into the weeds. I like that they played smart football, that they overcame a slow start, that they embraced the game script and did what was necessary to win the game. They never got too cute. They never took anything for granted. They went out there and stayed in it, pulled away, and preserved the win. And I know that we've seen Bills wins look a lot differently, right? Normally they look a lot different than this. But I think the Bills needed to win a game like this. They needed this type of win. And I was happy to see it happen. So before we talk about the specifics, they played smart. They overcame a slow start. They embraced the game script, a weird game script for the Bills, did what was necessary to win the game. They never got too cute, and they never took anything for granted. Now, more specifically, I like this rushing offense. Have to start there, right? The Bills ran the football 33 times for 171 yards, had a rushing touchdown. And I think my favorite part of that statistic is that only 7 yards came from Josh Allen. 7 yards of the 171 came from Josh Allen. This was about running backs, running the football, and being productive and consistent for 4 quarters. Devin Singletary, 18 rushes, 86 yards. That's 4.8 yards per carry. He also had a touchdown run. The guy took 9 weeks to get his first rushing touchdown of the season. Now he's got 2 in the last 3 games. James Cook, a great game from him. 11 rushes, 86 yards. That's 7.8 yards per carry. Very good job complimenting Devin Singletary. And I thought the Bills got James Cook going in good situations for him, attacking the edges quite a bit and having some nice design on some of those inside runs to give him really good tracks to run the football. He played well. And Nyheim Hines winds up having one rush, for -8 yards. And man, that play could have been huge. Obviously, the missed ear hole tackle, Jadeveon Clowney pulled him down by his ear hole. Officials they can't miss that call, but they did. And obviously a tough ask for Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis is a good blocker, but asking him to block Jadeveon Clowney is really a significant request. And so I'm unsurprised that he wasn't able to hit that block, but Nyheim to get pulled down by his ear hole, you need the referees to make that call. But I thought that was going to be a huge, huge play if they could have hit it. But they didn't, obviously. And I know that we talked all week about how the Browns had a poor run defense and their defensive tackles stink. But credit to the Bills for taking advantage of that weakness. For the season, the Browns were giving up 4.8 yards per carry. The Bills got 5.2 yards per carry, and that includes the kneel down and, of course, a -8 from Nyheim Hines. And so I thought the Bills did a great job of taking advantage of a bad run defense in a way that you would expect them to do it. And so I thought first and foremost, this rushing offense deserved a lot of credit for this ball game, especially late in the game where they were able to get some big conversions and be able to legitimately rely on it to milk clock and win a ball game. It was cool to see. The next thing I want to talk about is Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen in this game. Thought he played a smart game. This wasn't the kind of day where he needed to carry the team. He relied on the run game and he didn't force anything, especially in the red zone. And it was a concerning start to the game. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. And I thought that Gabriel Davis drop on the second drive that would have been a beautiful third down conversion over the middle. Gabe just dropped it. I was concerned at that moment, but Josh stuck with it. He took care of the football, and he helped prove that the Bills can win games without everything falling on his shoulders. 18 of 27, 197 yards, and a touchdown passing. It was a perfectly fine day from QB1, and in some ways, exactly what he needed, especially with how the game ultimately unfolded. Very, very satisfied with all of that from Josh Allen. No, it wasn't the dynamic, huge plays that we typically see him make in a game where the Bills score 31 points. But on the heels of what we watched over the last, 10 quarters from him, we'll take this. This was a good step in the right direction. Dawson Knox, good game for him. Matched a career high with 7 receptions on 7 targets for 70 yards. They did a good job of incorporating their $14 million a year tight end. And I don't know that we could say that very often this year. So it was nice to see him be a major factor in this ball game. How about Stefon Diggs? 4 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. I was discouraged like everyone else to start this game where the Bills' offense was sputtering and Stefon Diggs wasn't involved. And a lot has been made over this chat that Stefon Diggs had with Sean McDermott on the sideline. I don't really put much into it. The Bills' offense, like I said, it was sputtering. They had no first downs. Diggs didn't have a target. And to me, it just looked like a normal conversation between a head coach and a key influential leader on the football team. The broadcast tried to make a very big deal out of this. And to me, it was good to see, right? You want to see that communication. You want to see Coach McDermott be able to have a moment with a player and talk something through. And you like to see the response that happened. But to me, it's just normal football. Good to see. But obviously, the bigger point being that Diggs got involved after that moment, had a key touchdown, came away with 4 catches for 48 yards. Not the biggest game you'll ever see from Stefon Diggs, but when he was able to kind of get it going, he made a difference. I want to talk about the special teams. What a day for the special teams. I mean, just an unbelievable day for the Bills special teams. Tyler Bass scored 19 points, 6 of 6 on field goals. He hit from 42, 36, 56. That was huge. 49, 28, and 39. Made his extra point. It was just a pure day kicking the ball for Tyler Bass, and I thought it was just very consistent. Just the flight of the ball, the confidence. You can hear the toe hit the leather. I mean, it was just pure kicking of the football. And you expect that to some degree because he's playing inside in a controlled environment, but you still love to see it. So that was one great part about the special teams. They go 7 for 7 on field goals, basically, if you include the extra point. How about Nyheim Hines? Don't you love having this guy on the field as your return guy? Gets a chance to be the kick returner as well as the punt returner in this game. He's a nice player. He's a weapon back there. He's the total package, right? He gives you good decision-making, good ball handling, and production with the ball in his hands. That 28-yard return was huge for the Bills. Set him up to get a field goal. The offense was going nowhere. That 28-yard punt return put the Bills in scoring range, and they got 3 points. Was a big part of this ball game. 2 punt returns for 37 yards, 3 kick returns for 76 yards, including a 32-yard return. Sam Martin, the Bills punter, was phenomenal. 2 punts, 52-yard net on 1 punt, 47-yard net on the other. That's a phenomenal day of punting the football. And then Daquan Jones with a blocked field goal, a 34-yard attempt, by the way. That would have made it a 22-13 ball game. The blocked field goal kept it at 22-10. So it wasn't like this was a low boot coming from a long field goal. This was basically an extra point. 34 yards, and Daquan Jones was able to get his paw on it. So you're talking about a great day, place kicking, punting, returning, and you get a blocked field goal. That's an outstanding day for Matthew Smiley's special teams unit. Got more to talk about in terms of things that I'd like from this ball game. We'll focus on the defense here in just a moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by Total Wine and More. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite Cabernet or Chardonnay or the perfect gift for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. And all of that with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. Love what you find only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly. Be 21. Turo is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., U.K., Canada, and coming soon to Australia. You can book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. You can get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. You can find an affordable economy car if you're just on a budget and need to get from point A to point B. You can even test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits into your everyday life. And I love this. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Got a few more things that I liked from this ball game that I want to talk about and kind of focus on the defensive side of the football. And we'll start here with the defense. They manned up against the run. Big time. Big time. The Browns had 26 rushes for 80 yards. This was one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL. And that Nick Chubb guy, 14 rushes for 19 yards. I spent all day on this all week really on this podcast talking about this guy and how special of a running back he is and how much concern he gave me. how good he is after contact. I mean, this was a big influential point of our conversations all week long. The Bills held him to 19 yards on 14 carries. I mean, that's a terrific job. Getting some tackles for loss, but mostly just winning up front and limiting the space available for Nick Chubb. Thought the defensive tackles in this game were phenomenal. Ed Oliver, what a game. 3 tackles for loss. Daquan Jones controlled his space. Tim Settle showed up in this ball game, felt his presence. I think he's been pretty mediocre this year. Felt him in this one. Jordan Phillips. These guys all had some really good moments, and I'm also going to shout out Shaq Lawson. I like Shaq Lawson. I really do. I think he's such a fundamentally sound football player. No, he's not this elite, dynamic pass rusher, but he just does everything that you want him to do. He plays the run. He's smart. He anticipates blocks. He squeezes gaps. He's where he's supposed to be. He's a smart pass rusher that plays within himself. He's never out of his lane. He is a fundamentally sound football player. Shaq Lawson can be my defensive end 4 all day long. I'm not sure he's right now with Greg Rousseau out. I'm not sure if he shouldn't be the starter opposite of Von Miller because he's so fundamentally sound. And maybe he doesn't make a ton of plays, even though he does, right? He literally had a tackle for on the QB sneak from Jacoby Brissett in this game. And of course, last week did the same against Kirk Cousins. So yeah, he does make some plays, but I just really appreciate what he brings to the table. I think you guys all would agree that the star on defense was Matt Milano. Bills linebacker was unbelievable in this game. 12 tackles, 3 of them for a loss, a sack, a fumble recovery. I mean, he made big play after big play for this defense. And I thought that fumble recovery was a game-changing moment. They need at that point in the game, but we'll get into this in just a moment. They needed something to go right. The offense was sputtering. The defense was giving up yards. They needed a break. And I know that they didn't force that fumble, but Matt Milano had very good awareness to that ball and got on it quick. And that was a game-changing play. 12 tackles, 3 for loss, a sack, fumble recovery. He probably deserves a lot of recognition and maybe even consideration for AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Vote for Matt Milano to go to the Pro Bowl. He deserves it. He's playing linebacker as good as anyone in the league right now. And as I tweeted out from the Locked On Bills Twitter account, all pro Milano or we riot. He's playing great. How about Jordan Poyer in this ballgame? I think he made an impact, right? Disrupted that early pass to David Njoku. Looked like it was going to be a catch. Certainly over the last 2 weeks without him against the Jets and Vikings, that was a catch. We saw it a million times. Poyer was able to get in there and disrupt it, and then obviously made that big tackle for loss. I believe it was on Nick Chubb on a pass to the outside. Blew it up. He felt his presence all game long. And I know that a lot of people are bringing up that the Bills are 6-0 when he plays, and they have 3 losses, right, when he's not on the field, right? All 3 of them. The Dolphins, the Jets, and the Vikings. And you could go to each one of those games and specifically bring up moments that cost the Bills the ball game that if Jordan Poyer was in there, might have gone differently. Go to Miami, the 3rd and 22 conversion. Does that happen if Jordan Poyer's the safety? How about the Jets game? All those moments where we're frustrated with Jaquan Johnson. What if that was Jordan Poyer? If Jordan Poyer's on the field, does the Jets have that long drive at the end where the Bills couldn't get a stop? You think Michael Carter averages over 6 yards after contact per rush against the Bills if Jordan Poyer's in the game? How about the Vikings? All those low lights from Cam Lewis, whether it was the bad angle on the Dalvin Cook 81-yard touchdown run, whiffing on the tackle on the C.J. Ham rushing touchdown, all the plays that Cam Lewis couldn't make in the passing game. You think that's different if Jordan Poyer's on the field? I mean, literally, you could probably make a really strong case that the Bills don't lose any of those games if Jordan Poyer plays. And they're 6-0 when he does play, and we all know that they don't beat Baltimore without him. You can't you can't say enough about how important Jordan Poyer is to this football team. Let's talk about things I didn't like. And I think you got to start with the start to the game. I mean, what a bad start. You finally win a coin toss. The defense is on the field for the first time. Right? The first time they're on the field first all year long. And the Browns go right down your throat. 9 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown. They took 6 minutes off the clock. They converted 2 3rd and 11s on the drive. The Amari Cooper touchdown. You're like, oh, crap. This is going to be bad. The offense gets the ball. They go 3 and out. The defense gets back on the field, and okay, great. The Vikings go 3 and out. The Browns go 3 and out. Then you get the great return on the punt by Hines. The Bills offense takes over at the Browns 32. They get 8 yards on first down. They have 2nd and 2. And then they don't get another inch and have to settle for a field goal. That didn't feel good, right? Your offense starts a drive at the plus 32, and you don't get a first down. Browns get the ball, get back. They get a field goal, but they drove the ball well. They got the ball down inside the Bills' 10-yard line. Offense gets the ball back. They go 3 and out again. Everything looks hard. Josh Allen doesn't look comfortable in any way, shape, or form. And then the next drive from the Browns, they're moving the ball with ease once again. And Jacoby Brissett fumbles. And it feels like a new game. And it was a new game from that moment forward, but it took over 27 minutes to feel like the Bills had a pulse in this football game. I mean, they finally woke up, but it was a rough, nearly entirely 2 full quarters of just, what is this? Starting to really question this football team. Well, they found their pulse and played really good over the last 32 minutes of the game. The next thing that I didn't like was the offense just wasn't as situationally dynamic as I want it to be. Although I will say, like I began this podcast with, is that I'm okay with it. I think this was the type of game the Bills needed to play and win. Smart, take care of the ball, and just keep playing. But I don't think you ever want to look at a game and say, oh, they were 2 of 5 in the red zone scoring touchdowns. That's bad. 3 of 11 on third down. You have 186 net passing yards. I mean, that's not great. That's not good stuff. Again, the type of game I think the Bills needed to play and win. But if you think about things that you don't love and it means you don't like it, I think it's fair to say that the offense just wasn't as situationally dynamic as we want it to be. The next thing is that I didn't like is that the Bills gave up a lot of passing production. And it really just came from the DBs not being able to make plays on the ball. They're in position, but they're just not winning the ball. You're seeing Amari Cooper go up and get it, and Donovan Peoples-Jones go up and get it, and then last week it's Justin Jefferson, and the week before that it's whoever the heck Aaron Rodgers threw the ball to in the second half of the game and just going up and making plays on the ball. Maybe that's different if you have Kyer Elam, Tre'Davious White. It'd be nice to have that guy at some point. But DBs just weren't winning the ball in the air, and then, I mean, the pass rush was really quiet. I'm pretty disappointed in the Bills' pass rush lately. 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits, and over 40 dropbacks. Not good enough. Now, I will say this, because I saw some questions and stuff that came my way about why are the Bills giving up all these yards to a backup quarterback? We talked about this. Like, the Browns statistically have not been a bad offense this year. They're actually number 5 in the NFL. They average 375 yards per game. They're number 10 in scoring. Like, this wasn't a crap offense just because they had a backup quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's probably, and I thought Jeff Lloyd on the crossover discussion last Thursday kind of put this really well. Jacoby Brissett's probably somewhere between 25 and 35 when it comes to ranking the quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, this isn't the worst quarterback that a team can put out there. He's got size and toughness, and he limits a team, but he's not awful. That's a top 5 offense. Top 10 in scoring entering this game. So When you factor that in with a Bills defense that doesn't have Greg Rousseau, and doesn't have Tremaine Edmonds, and doesn't have Kyer Elam, obviously doesn't have Micah Hyde. I guess we're used to that. Doesn't have Tre'Davious White. I guess we're used to that. I mean, you're missing some like big time impact players at a neutral site. So, yeah, I don't love that they gave up a lot of passing production, but I'm not sitting here panicking. I'm not sitting here saying, wow, it was a backup quarterback. There's context there that you have to consider. Two more quick things and things I didn't like. The next thing is Gabriel Davis being on the hands team. Send that to the moon. Gabriel Davis has good ball skills and he has good size, but his hands are very inconsistent. And so you saw that in that opportunity. Like, legitimately, the Browns should have recovered that. Ronnie Harrison had every opportunity to get that ball because Gabe Davis couldn't field it cleanly. So let's get that guy off. And you would think he'd be the guy, right? The number 2 receiver. He's got good size. Like, ideally, that would be who you put there. But that's just another area where you miss Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde's that guy. We've seen this 100 times. That Micah Hyde every time gets that football cleanly. Diggs on the other side, you're happy with that. But Gabe Davis on the hands team is something that this football team needs to reconsider. And then the last thing, and I'll keep this very brief, the refs got very annoying in this game, didn't they? Just felt like at a certain point they just wanted to be involved. So I never like that. I'm not one to talk a whole lot about referees and all that type of stuff, but they just got annoying as hell to me in this football game. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. I hope you've been getting in on the action over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? Well, you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks has every sport that you watch. That includes NFL, NBA, NHL, golf, college sports, boxing, soccer, you name it. You can find it over at PrizePicks, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. So if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Just don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match worth up to $100 over at PrizePicks. All right, let's close this thing out by reflecting on my predictions, talking quickly about the AFC East, and setting the tone for what's next for the Bills in this podcast. So as for my predictions, we did really good this time. My first prediction was that Nyheim Hines would make an impact in this game. And what I said on the podcast on Friday was that I don't know how to measure that, but we'll know. I said I will be able to hypothetically look you in the eye when reviewing these predictions for the post-game pod, and we can agree that he made an impact. Well, he had the big punt return, right? That set up a score for the Bills when the offense was having no life at all. Had another good punt return. A couple good kick returns. Is it definitive? I mean, I thought he made an impact. Was it like Matt Milano impact? No, but I don't know that that was ever my intent. So I put a poll in the Locked On Bills Twitter community. So if you're on Twitter, find the Locked On Bills Twitter community and join it. It's fun. There's a lot of good discussion in there. And I asked them, I said, very important, did Nyheim Hines make a meaningful impact in this game? And as of the recording of this podcast, 87% of you said yes. That means 13% said no. That's pretty convincing, right? Am I claiming this as a correct prediction? I wish it was like easier for me to say this, but I think there's a good chance that I got that right. Number 2, I predicted a season high for rushing yards from Devin Singletary. 85 was his season high against Kansas City. He's only had more than 85 rushing yards 8 times in his career. We got it, folks. 86 on the dot, which is exactly what I needed him to get. And there was a moment there where he had 86 and then he had a 3-yard loss. And I was like, oh my God, I just lost a prediction. It was late in the game too, but then he gained it right back and we got back to 86 and we're back in business. We got that one right. I said no Josh Allen interceptions. Got that right. Yes, no Josh Allen interceptions, no Bills turnovers at all in this game. I said that the Bills would win the coin toss. That happened. That was nice, right? And I predicted the Bills win, and we got that right as well. So I at a minimum got 4 of these right. And if you think that Nyheim Hines made an impact in this game and the way that I communicated it on Friday, then I went 5 for 5. But I think this is the second time this year where I went 4 for 4 for sure, but that 5th one was like, did you really get it? And so I'll leave it up to the court of public opinion. As for the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins, they're in first place still. They were idle this week. They didn't play, and they come off the bye. They're 7-3, and they play the Houston Texans with their next game. So probably an 8-3 team. The Bills are 7-3 after their win over the Browns. They're in second place. They lost to the Dolphins, so they don't have the tiebreaker. The Dolphins currently have that. The Patriots are in third place. They're now 6-4 after their 10-3 win over the Jets. And the Jets are now 6-4 after their 10-3 loss to the Patriots. So that's how the AFC East shakes up right now. Next for the Bills, they're back in Detroit on Thanksgiving to play the Detroit Lions, who have won 3 in a row. And I will get you ready for that game this week on the podcast. I know the Detroit Lions very, very well. They're part of my pro scouting responsibilities for the Draft Network. So I might have a little extra to say about them. I've watched all of their games this year, so I'm very well acquainted with that football team. And so I'll get you ready for them this week on the podcast. Stay tuned on exactly what the plan's going to be. Some of the timing of things this week, it makes it a little bit challenging. The Bills obviously play on Thursday, and we will have crossover Thursday on Thursday, which I'll probably publish for you sometime on Wednesday whenever I get that recorded. Friday will be the game reaction, and then we'll get the primer in, and we may have to skip herd mentality this week just because of the way things line up, and then the Bills play the following Thursday against the Patriots. So our programming here is going to be a little different as we try to navigate just a weird chunk of the Bills schedule. And then obviously they have 10 days between the Patriots and their next game. So I'll have to kind of take a look at exactly what I want to do here over the next 3 weeks. But, I'll be here for you every day. I just don't know exactly what we'll be talking about, but we'll try to keep our normal staples of our weekly routine in as much as possible. So make sure that you're subscribed. Don't miss anything. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share this podcast. Happy Victory Monday to you, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.